Recently, it seems the news is only focused on negative stories about China, and I wanted to show a different side of the stories to see if China is actually helping or hurting Asia. China is accused of all manner of nonsense, from debt traps to aggression towards its neighbors. So I wanted to show how China is actually helping build infrastructure and economies in Asia. In this video, I will show you a few mega projects that China has been building and talk about how China is actually helping other Asian nations develop. It is easy to get caught up in negative news stories and miss some of the more positive stories about Asia. So let's jump right in and see how China has been working with its Asian neighbors. We will start this list off with the Lotus Tower in Colombo, Sri Lanka. According to the Daily Mirror, Chinese loans have aided the construction of the Lotus Tower, a 350-meter lotus-like structure that is the tallest building in South Asia. The opening ceremony was held on the 16th of September 2019, and according to reports, the lotus-shaped tower is used for communications, observation, and other leisure facilities. Construction is estimated to cost around $113 million. Despite the ongoing issues in Sri Lanka, there's ongoing issues, Ethel. Despite the ongoing issues in Sri Lanka, we can see that Chinese companies in financing were vital in the construction of this landmark building. It is a landmark building, Ethel. Since completion, the Lotus Tower has become a popular tourist destination and was seen as a symbol of Sri Lanka's economic growth and development. Although Sri Lanka's economy has imploded based on bad governance and mismanagement of resources, we can see that China was working closely with the country to improve its economy and infrastructure, including ports, roads, airports, and commercial real estate. Speaking of roads and public infrastructure, let's move on to number 9 on our list and look at how China is helping Uzbekistan. First off, China is Uzbekistan's largest trading partner, and the two countries have signed a number of economic cooperation agreements. China has also provided Uzbekistan with loans and grants to help with infrastructure development and economic reforms. Most notably, during a presidential visit to China in 2017, the two countries signed 115 deals worth more than $23 billion, which included cooperations in electrical power, oil production, chemicals, architecture, textiles, pharmaceuticals, engineering, transportation, infrastructure, and agriculture. One good example of China's involvement in helping Uzbekistan grow is the Olten Oli gas and liquid processing plant. According to aid data, the Olten Yoli GTL plant will seek to produce synthetic liquid fuels based on purified methane from the Shrolten gas chemical complex. The total cost of the plant is $3.7 billion, and the China Development Bank reportedly contributed $1.2 billion of debt for this project in 2017. More recently, in 2021, China and Uzbekistan signed agreements worth around $15 billion, covering trade, investment, financial, and technical cooperations. The agreements were signed during a meeting between the two presidents on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting. The agreement will extend trade and economic cooperation, develop e-commerce and implementation of industrial cooperation projects, and invest in areas such as the automotive industry, green energy, agriculture, and infrastructure development, as well as a free trade industrial zone. Again, these agreements show how China is working with their trading partners and neighbors to create economic opportunities for both nations. The agreements are also a sign of Uzbekistan's commitment to economic reform and modernization. The country has been undergoing a number of reforms in recent years, and the agreements with China are a sign of the international community's support for these reforms. Next on our list at number 8 is the Myanmar-China oil and gas pipeline projects. The 800-kilometer-long oil and natural gas twin pipelines that run from Myanmar to China are a major infrastructure project that was completed in 2013. The pipelines are owned and operated by the China National Petroleum Corporation. And according to the BRI Monitor, the oil pipeline carries 22 million tons of oil per year to the city of Kunming in China. The natural gas pipeline carries 12 billion cubic meters of gas per year from Myanmar to the city of Chongqing in China. The pipelines are a major strategic asset for China, which provide China with a secure and reliable source of energy from a friendly neighbor. The pipelines also help to diversify China's energy sources and reduce its reliance on oil production from the Middle East. The construction of the pipelines helped Myanmar by creating thousands of jobs. According to the World Bank, the pipelines created an estimated 100,000 jobs during the construction phase. The project not only created jobs, but it has also generated billions of dollars in revenue for Myanmar. The government of Myanmar receives a share of the profit from the pipelines, and in 2017, the government of Myanmar received around $1.2 billion in revenue from the pipelines. These projects are now part of the bigger project called the China-Myanmar Economic Corridor, which is a series of projects designed to improve Myanmar's infrastructure and economy. Speaking of corridors, up next on our list at number 7 is the Western Europe-Western China Expressway. The Western Europe-Western China Expressway, also known as the New Silk Road, is a transcontinental expressway linking China's Yellow Sea coast with Eastern Europe. The expressway is 8,445 kilometers long and passes through China, Kazakhstan, and Russia. It was completed in 2018 and is one of the longest roads in the world. The expressway has been praised for its economic and strategic benefits. It is expected to reduce transportation costs in time between China and Europe, and it will also help to promote regional integration. The total cost of building the Western Europe-Western China Expressway is unknown. However, estimates range from around $10 billion to $20 billion. The costs of the project vary depending on the country in which it was built. For example, the cost of the expressway in China is much lower than the cost of the expressway in Kazakhstan. Overall, the cost of the expressway was a major factor in the decision to build it, but the Chinese government believed that the economic benefits of the expressway would outweigh the cost of construction. The expressway is expected to boost trade and economic cooperation between China and its partners, and it is also expected to create jobs in China, Kazakhstan, and Russia. Again, we see that China is working with other nations in Asia to develop and build infrastructure that will foster economic growth not only for China, but for the entire region. China and Russia have been working more closely in the last few years, and many landlocked nations are looking to benefit from these growing ties. Another good example of a landlocked nation in Asia looking to become a transit hub is Kyrgyzstan, which brings us to number 6 on our list. One project that is finally making some headway is the China-Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, or the CKU Railway, which was first proposed back in the 1990s. According to reports, China first built its own railway reaching 2 cities near the border, Aksu and Kashgar, in 1998 and 2003. The 2000s were a decade where several key Chinese energy and infrastructure projects in Central Asia also took shape. The Chinese oil pipeline from Kazakhstan started operation in 2010, and the gas pipeline from Turkmenistan also was completed in 2009. Needless to say, the construction of the CKU railway was gaining momentum, along with a regional perspective that viewed China as a new economic provider. However, despite the rapid growth of bilateral trade between China and Kyrgyzstan in the 2000s, from around 118 million in 2001 to 5.2 billion in 2009, both sides struggled to agree on the financing method for the $2 billion railway. While China has found it difficult to push the project on its own, a shift in the regional environment has prompted other parties to come in and help the project. There is still a lot of work to be done on this project, but all the nations involved seem to be working together to push the project forward. This railway link will allow for more goods to pass into and through Kyrgyzstan, which should allow for the nation to benefit from transit taxes and imports and exports. Only time will tell how successful this project is if and when it is completed. But despite the outcome, it is clear that China is working with its neighbors to develop infrastructure projects and increase trade. And speaking of increasing things, we have made it halfway through this list, and if you're still here, you probably like these types of lists, so hit that like button because it really helps me to know that people like these videos, and it keeps me motivated to make more of them in the future. Alright, next up on our list is a project that might generate a lot of comments, and many people might miss the point of adding it on this list. So let me be clear, this list is about projects that China is working on or has completed with the help of other nations with the intent of improving the infrastructure or trade with that country. If the project hasn't been successful or hasn't accomplished its goal yet, that is another story. This list is about what is being done and not about the success or failure of the projects. With that said, number 5 on our list is the Gwadar port in Pakistan. China has played a major role in developing this port. The port is located on the Arabian Sea and it is strategically located at the mouth of the Persian Gulf. It is expected to become a major trade and transit hub for the region. China has invested billions of dollars in the development of the Gwadar port. The Chinese government has built a new deep-water port, a new airport, a new road and rail network, and China has also built a number of commercial and residential buildings in the area. The development of the port is part of China's Belt and Road Initiative, which is a global infrastructure project that aims to connect Asia, Africa, and Europe. The port is seen as an important part of the BRI, as it will provide China with a strategic foothold in the Indian Ocean. Because of recent economic issues in Pakistan, some have pointed to the project as a waste of money and resources, but despite the critics, the project is an example of China's desire to develop new markets and trade routes. Moving on to Tajikistan, we have the Dushanbe number 2 power station at number 4 on our list. The station is a 400 megawatt coal-fired power station in Dushanbe, Tajikistan. It was built by China's TBEA Corporation and was commissioned in 2014. The plant is owned and operated by a national electric utility company in Tajikistan. The Dushanbe number 2 power station is the largest power plant in Tajikistan and accounts for over 50% of the country's electricity generation. The plant uses coal from coal mines in Tajikistan, and the coal is transported there by rail. The power station is an important source of electricity for the nation. The plant has helped to meet the country's growing demand for electricity, and it has also helped to reduce the nation's reliance on imported electricity. Coming in at number 3 is Turkmenistan. China has been working on a number of major projects with Turkmenistan. These projects are part of China's Belt and Road Initiative and include a gas pipeline, a railway, and a free trade zone. According to reports, the Central Asia-China gas pipeline is a natural gas pipeline system that connects Central Asia to Xinjiang. This pipeline allows for the transportation of gas across 7,000 kilometers from Turkmenistan to Shanghai by joining it to China's domestic grid. The pipeline transports more than half of Turkmenistan's natural gas exports to China. The first of these pipelines were completed in 2009, with the second one following the year after, and a third pipeline became operational in 2014, after taking 2 years to build it. According to China National Petroleum Corporation, the inflow of Turkmen gas helps China meet its energy demands and stabilizes the country's overall consumption structure. The pipeline has boosted the natural gas proportion of China's energy consumption by 2% and has helped reduce pollution. Another project helping Turkmenistan is the China-Turkmenistan Railway. It is a railway line that is under construction that will connect Xinjiang with Turkmenistan. The railway is part of the China Central Asia West Asia Railway Network, which is being developed by China. The China-Turkmenistan Railway is expected to be 752 kilometers long and will have a design speed of 120 kilometers per hour. The railway is expected to be completed in 2025. The railway will reduce transportation costs between China and Central Asia. This will make it easier for Chinese businesses to export goods to Central Asia and for Central Asian businesses to export goods to China. China is also working with Turkmenistan to establish a free trade zone. This zone will allow for foreign businesses to set up companies within the zone and benefit from tax breaks and lower property rates. China has been helping many nations implement free trade zones with varying success. China has used this model to spur economic growth within China, but it is yet to be seen how successful these strategies will work in other countries. Moving away from the stands and floating out to sea, we have the China-Maldives Friendship Bridge at number 2 on our list. The bridge is a 1.3 kilometer long bridge that connects the capital city of Mel to the Homol Island, which is home to the Velal International Airport. The bridge was built by the Chinese government and opened in 2018. It is the first bridge in the Maldives that has significantly reduced travel time between the two islands. The bridge is part of a larger Chinese-funded development project in the Maldives, which include the construction of a new airport terminal and a convention center. The project is seen as a sign of China's growing economic and strategic influence in the Indian Ocean region. The Chinese government agreed to finance the bridge project during President Xi Jinping's historic visit to the Maldives in September 2014. The bridge was estimated to cost around 210 million US dollars and was financed with 126 million US dollars in grant aid and a concessionary loan from China, along with 12.6 million US dollars from the Maldivian state budget. This is just one of the many projects China has proposed to help build the small nation, and another example of China's willingness to work with its Asian partners. If you've made it this far into the video, you must really like these projects. So be sure to subscribe and hit the bell button, because I often talk about mega projects that China is building around the world and at home. Alright, let's find out what number 1 is on this list. Number 1 on this list is the Kunming to Singapore Railway. This is a high-speed railway project that will connect the city of Kunming in China to Singapore. The railway is part of the China-Singapore Railway Link, a larger project that aims to connect China and Singapore by rail. It will be a high-speed railway with a maximum speed of 350 kilometers per hour. The railway will be 3,900 kilometers long, and it is expected to take about 24 hours to travel from Kunming to Singapore. The railway will start or end, depending on how you look at it, in China and will pass through Laos, Thailand, Malaysia, and into Singapore. Construction began in 2011 and it is expected to be completed in 2027. The project is expected to cost around $15 billion, and the railway is expected to boost economic growth in the region and is expected to create jobs, attract foreign investment, and improve connectivity in Asia. This is just another example of how China is working with many of its Asian neighbors to develop and grow. As you can see from these 10 mega projects, China is a major player in the region and is working to develop the infrastructure and economies of Asia. Despite many setbacks and failures, China has been pushing forward to help build a prosperous region. Many critics will say China is setting up debt traps, but it takes away all the agency from the independent nations. No nation is forced to work with China on these mega projects, but they choose to work with China because of the opportunities provided. Many of these nations desperately need infrastructure and economic development, which China is willing to provide with fewer strings attached. To say China is actively deceiving these nations is basically saying these nations don't know what's best for their own development and that they can't make financial decisions on their own. So what do you think? Is China trying to develop new markets for its exports and companies, or are they trying to debt trap their neighbors for their own gain? Leave a comment below, and if you want to see another video about mega projects, you can click here, and I hope to see you over there.